What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Brian. Welcome back to another video after we've done all of our end of the year wrap-up reviews, and we're starting off with a banger here. We are talking about the newest release in the Heaven Hill Heritage Collection. This is a 19-year-old, 100 proof wheat whiskey. We've seen some of these wheat whiskeys release already a couple years ago. Looks like this was February of 2023. They had a 14-year bottling in the Bottle Your Own experience. This was almost 136 proof. And this was one of the last examples I had of wheat whiskey from Heaven Hill. And this was a bottle I felt like at the time, a lot of folks were after, a lot of folks really enjoyed, had these big, robust characteristics, almost like a George T. Stagg because of its coffee, its oak, its sugary sweetness, its chocolatey type notes. And you might think, hey, is the Heaven Hill Heritage Collection gonna get close to this? Spoiler, it's not. But that doesn't mean there aren't things to love about this one. Let's put this one aside real quick and let's dive in to the 19-year. I think a lot of people are looking at this and they're saying, hey, is this going to be worth the price point? We've seen a lot of releases. There's been a lot of hype in the Heritage Collection. And I will say, I know a lot of folks like the 17-year. It has so far probably been the strongest release of those. I think the next strongest after that was the 18-year. You probably saw on my end of the year lists. It surprised me, did pretty well considering how I didn't think I liked it end of the year. I think this 19-year is gonna follow suit like that. The 20-year corn whiskey, I had high hopes for it. I didn't really like it that much. And I think a lot of people are probably there when it comes to this wheat whiskey. $300 is a lot to shell out for not a bourbon. The recipe on this one, 51% wheat, 37% corn, 12% malted barley. And I will admit, it's got a really inviting nose. Now that said, it's not all that different from other whiskeys that I've come to before. I wouldn't actually think that it's a wheat whiskey based on the nose because it has a lot of sweeter characteristics that I'm really enjoying. Big brown sugar, kind of pecan pie-like notes, sweet, almost candied fruits, really nice. It's a little bit nougaty. There's a little bit of freshly ground coffee, like you had a bag of coffee, you squeezed it, you got those burst of aromatics there, but I keep coming back to this fruitiness that's there on the nose. It's slightly perfumed, but then kind of runs into some classic Heaven Hill-like notes, that kind of classic Heaven Hill nuttiness, or I should say like that kind of creamy peanut butter note you might notice in other Heaven Hill products, specifically the older ones. And then it runs into kind of a balanced oak and a milk chocolate. And I think that kind of creamy peanut butter milk chocolate thing is a through line I've had in a lot of well-aged Heaven Hill products. Let's go ahead and dive in on the palate. Palate's really lovely. It actually runs into a lot of the same notes that we pulled out of the nose. Candied, slightly perfumed fruit, and I'm talking like the filling of a raspberry Pop-Tart, maybe like a little bit of blackberry syrup, kind of the dark fruit, but it's more on the sweeter side. And there's a pleasing tingle mid-palate. I wouldn't call it overly spicy, but there's definitely kind of maybe a little bit cinnamon, a little bit of a white pepper note that kind of hits right on the middle of the palate. But then again, it kind of goes with that classic Heaven Hill nutty profile on the palate. I feel like there's a whole round of Willet purple tops that people have talked about that have this type of flavor profile. But keep in mind, this is 100 proof, so it's definitely softer, it's definitely lighter. Maybe some of you are more familiar with the 13-year, the orange label of the William Heaven Hill release. Now I bring that up because I really liked that one on the palate too. But the biggest criticism I heard from other people was that it kind of fell a little bit soft, a little bit short because of its 100 proof. And I feel like this might have some of that same thing going on. I think the largest downside here is actually in the finish. If anyone were to, throughout the nosing or the palate, draw any conclusions to like an older, slightly dusty type of whiskey and its fragrance or how it portrays itself with its age, I think you could do that. And I think it's most similar to those in the finish because those are usually a little bit softer in proof and they have a very quick fall off to the finish. And I feel like this one has that. As much as I wanted to compare to this Heaven Hill Select Stock, I just don't think you can. Again, that one, rich and robust. It's got lots of coffee notes, chocolate notes, these big bursting cherry-like notes. And this one actually doesn't have those types of flavors. Honestly, it does sort of remind me of this hybrid between the 18-year last year, but maybe a touch softer because of the lack of rye that's in it. I feel like it maybe mutes some of the flavors even more. So if you wanted just a very soft, silky, tamed down experience, I think you're gonna get that here in a nice, well-aged profile to boot. But but I don't know that somebody who's looking for that is necessarily looking to spend $300. I don't know if there's much else to say about it. I think that you all know here, I like complex pours. I like pours that continue to develop. And I think I just noticed that this one carries a lot of the same flavors from the nose through to the palate, and then it kind of falls off in the finish. For me, I like what it's presenting, and I'm curious to see if this one were to surprise me at the end of the year going against other things. I think there's a lot of people who will really like this, and I think it's really good for what it is, a 19-year-old wheat whiskey. The biggest thing people are gonna have a problem with is the price for it. I wouldn't be paying more than retail for a bottle of this, but I could definitely see myself enjoying it. The largest question is, with time, which I don't have here in the video, is does this continue to open up and give some more complexity? I'd love to hear from you all. If you all get a chance to try this one, what did you think about it? Thanks everybody for tuning into another video. I hope it's insightful, informational. Try to go a little quicker with this one as well. Let me know if there's other things you want to hear me talk about in future videos here on the channel. And if you do get a chance to try this 19-year-old wheat whiskey, let me know what you thought down in the comments below. Thanks everybody for tuning into another video, and until next time, we'll see you all later.